Koalas could become extinct in our lifetime. Hard to believe, but it's a confronting assessment.
They're one of Australia's most iconic creatures, but koalas are facing a quiet crisis. Loved worldwide, yet vanishing in their own backyard. This is their story. Amazing mammals they are.
Also very closely related to koalas are wombats. So right now we are at Symbio Wildlife Park at about an hour and 10 minutes south on our coast from Sydney. The Koala Sanctuary at Symbio Wildlife Park aims to conserve what we are looking at throughout this entire video, this entire project, which is the koala population in the Macarthur region. So right now you can probably see they're pretty slow, pretty drowsy, but we are super lucky that we get to see these guys awake. Our koalas in Australia, they sleep up to 20 hours a day, and there's specific reasons for that. Number one is because their metabolic rate. What a metabolic rate is all the processes that happen in our body, and because koalas only live off gum leaves, only about 5 species out of all the gum leaf types in Australia, it's not a lot of energy. So to conserve energy, they have to have a behavioural adaptation where they sleep all the time. There is a common myth where we think that koalas get a little bit drowsy and drunk from the toxins in the gum leaves. However, that's just an absolute outright myth. And in fact, the koala stomachs have an outstanding adaptation whereby they can actually break down these toxins. Number 2 in terms of adaptations, as you can see on Manion's rump right here, he has a cartilaginous pad, similar to the stuff that's in our ears and our nose. Also very closely related to koalas are wombats. And you might see they have chunky bottoms as well, just like Manion here. And that is because for our koalas, for them to sit on these tough branches for 20 hours a day, they need to be able to have some cushioning and some padding so they don't hurt their little bottoms. So right now what we can see is I'm up really close with one of Symbio's joeys here. We might hear the word joey and think of little baby kangaroos. However, with marsupials, a marsupial is where we have our young in a pouch. And koalas do the exact same thing as kangaroos. Oi! Another amazing adaptation, change that koalas have is you might be able to see these really long claws on the branch here. And what those claws are for is to be able to climb up really high. Likewise, you'll also be able to see koalas have 2 thumbs, and that is really good to be able to grip, as well as that padding to support holding on instead of slipping down and falling down all over the place. So our little joey here is 1 year and 3 months old. In the wild, koalas only live up to 10 to 13 years. However, in koala sanctuaries such as this one in Symbio, they can live up to 17 years. So these beautiful creatures that we see in ads on TV and we think straight away of Australia, they are unfortunately dwindling by the minute. The first and foremost reason for koala mortality or death in Australia is unfortunately a disease called chlamydia. This is a sexually transmitted disease that is caused by mating, and unfortunately this is where the disease is passed on from males to females and babies as well. Chlamydia causes blindness and puffiness in the eyes, as well as infertility, and the ultimate and most severe cases is death. And this can be caused also by an increase of stress in an environment. Think of when you're about to get a cold. If you are stressed, you are more susceptible, more likely to get something just as a common cold. It is the exact same as these beautiful animals right here. We're about to go to a place where it's the only known place in Australia where we have chlamydia-free koalas. Unfortunately, due to large housing developments, these trees are being cut down by the second, causing a 30% decrease of these beautiful animals over the past 5 years, and more than likely the extinction of this species in the wild by 2050. This is why it's vitally important to come and support wildlife institutions such as Symbio Wildlife Park to ensure that the conservation and breeding of these animals is maintained and upkept. And last but not least, it's extremely important that we take ownership of these animals, because whilst we see these animals on TV and we see them in books and we think of Australia straight away, These animals live in the trees. What else lives in trees? Little bugs also live in trees. If we knock down those trees, those bugs die too, which also means that the birds can't eat them, which means snakes can't eat birds, and it's a flow down effect for all species. So if we are aiming to save the koala, we are also saving many native species within Australia.
Where we are going is one of the last strongholds for koalas, and I'm on a mission to find one in the wild.
Welcome to Appin. So the whole reason why I've come to Appin is because Appin is one of the only known places in the entirety of Australia that has a koala population free of chlamydia. Now, to find these koalas, I'm using an app called BioNet. On the screen, you can see these little red triangles, and that is where the past sightings have been over the past 12 to 24 months. A lot of those sightings are along a river called the Georges River. And the reason why a lot of those sightings is because, as we saw before, koalas only eat eucalyptus leaves. And all the leaves and all the trees next to the river soak up all that water, and the koalas hydrate themselves through that way. They actually very rarely go to a water source and drink water like other mammals. So we're about to head off and we're going to see if we can find some of them. So I've just made my way to the start of this little river system within the bush of Appin. And our koalas in the Appin area are becoming harder and harder to find. I myself, as someone who grew up in this area, I've actually never seen a wild koala in my entire life. And so today what we're going to be looking for along this river system are scratches on trees, potential paw marks and claw marks on the ground in the sand, droppings, as well as sounds. So this is what I love about the Australian bush. It is just extremely quiet with some of the world's best bird calls. We've got the insects in the background because of how hot it is. Probably can see I am dripping in sweat already. It's probably been nearing on the couple of hours I've been walking now. So I'm right about now where we saw all those tiny little triangles on that BioNet app. So I'm going to be taking a very in-depth look around in this place. I have been walking for quite a while now. I've been going in and out from the river system, going further into the bush than back out to cover as much ground as possible. So let's keep our eyes up and fingers crossed. The reason why it's taking me so long to do this walk is because every 20 to 50 meters, I'm stopping, I'm looking up, surveying what's above me, then moving on. It really does make quite a number of kilometre trek. It does make a smaller trek go into quite a few hours. So I've been walking for quite a while now, and I haven't seen a single thing. I didn't come into this expecting to see a koala. However, I thought I'd see at least a sign or something. Like I said, I've grown up in this area for the past 28 years. And I've never seen a wild koala in my entire life. It's super upsetting because this entire area of the southwest of Sydney, it's only an hour out of Sydney, this entire area is known as Koalatown. And that's not only because of the population size, but also the importance to the koala species. That this population in this area is the only known population in Australia that is free from the first cause of mortality of koalas in this country, which is chlamydia. And I just find it really difficult to comprehend that these numbers are dwindling. And to me, such an important animal to Australia. It's an iconic animal in Australia. The fact that my own child, who's 2 years old, might only be able to see one in the zoo, or maybe not at all. Maybe they might be a fictional being in textbooks, such as that we look at upon, like the Tasmanian tiger, something we look at as a myth. And to me, that's not okay. But why is this happening? In a second, we're going to go back into civilization and we're going to look at the reasons why this population is dwindling at such an alarming rate. And so right now I'm on the edge of what is causing the decline of such an important koala population, and that is urbanisation. It is vitally important to understand that humans, us, we do need houses. However, when we build houses, that brings in the top 2 and 3 causes for koala deaths, and they are road fatalities and pet attacks. The more we build houses, the more cars we have on roads. The more houses we build, the more pets we involve. And it's really important to understand that those are the 2 main factors involved with that declining population, not just the habitat destruction. Some long-term effects that this might impact is that when we cut off certain sections of koala populations, that limits the genetic biodiversity that these koalas can have.
But wait, what does genetic diversity actually mean? Put simply, genetic diversity means the difference in DNA of individuals of the same species. Now let's make this a bit easier. Let's imagine we have an environment of koalas. And in this population, we have blue koalas, yellow koalas, and red koalas. Our yellow and red koalas have the DNA structure which can help fight off a certain disease, whereas our blue koalas unfortunately do not have that DNA structure. In our environment, our koalas are able to move around freely and mate with each other, meaning that all the offspring of these koalas would have that shared DNA to fight off that disease. But let's take a look at what's happening right now. If we build houses, we actually block off these corridors for our koalas to move around and mate, meaning that our yellow koalas and our red koalas are only able to mate with each other, and our blue koalas are only able to mate with each other. What that ultimately results in is only our yellow and red koalas having that DNA to support fighting off that disease, and our blue koalas being susceptible to that disease because they lack that DNA. And that is the risk we are currently running in building these large housing developments.
Right now, I'm going to enlist the help of a Campbelltown local legend to help us even find a koala, hear his insights and thoughts into what the issue is and how we can most importantly solve that problem. So come with me as we go and see the wild man of Smiths Creek, Les.
Yeah, my name's Les. They call me the Wild Man of Smiths Creek. I'm a bit of a wildlife enthusiast, retired snake catcher, and so I've been walking this reserve for about 6 years now. I fell in love with the koalas. I started, the 2019-20 bushfires, and I found 2 koalas in the creek. They were in trees, but they were covered in ash and that, and I thought, wow, I've got to do something about this, I've got to step up to the plate.
You seem so personable with these koalas. You talk about them like they're humans. What does the actual koala population here mean to you?
Oh, it means everything. We've had, 46 koalas die on Appin Road. They mean the world to me, And I know them personally. I feel I know them personally. Because I've seen them that many times, the same koala, Lizzie, Daisy, Millie, Franklin as well. So I like to give the koalas individuality.
So like I said, I've lived here for the past 28 years of my life and I haven't seen one koala in the wild. I've spent a lot of time in this bush and bush all around the area, so do you think you'll be able to show me my first one today?
We'll fix that for you. Right here, we've got some scratch marks on this tree, so I'll show you. And that's a female.
That's a female? How could you tell that's the female?
Because I've seen her up here. And looks like there has been a koala here. So that's a deep scratch mark.
So you reckon we're close?
Oh, probably. Hope so.
So right now we're in the middle of the valley and Les was just saying that there's an owl called the powerful owl, Australia's largest owl in this area, and they've been known to eat koalas.
Yeah, Joey Koalas.
Joey koalas, as well as cockatoos, which is, for those who aren't Australian, a very large white bird.
And fruit bats too. That's white. Could be that cat. Who knows? It's not part of the plan.
No.
And it's white. There's no white animals here, except for little cats.
So along the edge of the houses, they actually like to hang around houses,
Yeah.
housing developments.
I find a lot of my koalas behind the house.
Yeah? Why do you reckon that is?
Well, I've been told the soil up here is fertile.
Ah, okay.
So the leaves
Yep.
are nice and healthy.
And Les and I continued to look and look and look, but still nothing.
Feeling like we're on track?
Losing confidence.
Losing confidence.
Yeah, losing hope.
So we've just had a little break. Les messaged a good mate of his, and we've got a response. Now we're looking in the area of where Les's mate has said there's a koala around. This is the first koala I've ever seen in the wild. 28 years of looking around in this bushland, in this area. And this is the first one I've ever seen. I kid you not, right now, I can't even lie to you, Les. Right now, I've got a well of emotions coming up. This is a beautiful, beautiful animal. Oh my goodness, such a pinnacle of Australian culture in a native environment. And you can see around me, there are houses in the background, all along here. Out of everywhere we've been, in the middle of Appin, where you can't see a house for 3 hours of walking, and yet just on the edge of civilization, we can see this absolutely stunning animal. She's just got this gorgeous little hand holding onto the branch. Absolutely stunning. Fast asleep. Had a little poke up to see that we were here. And I can't even explain to you how beautiful this is. You can see her little nose. Adorable as hell, all hell. And we need to save these things. So Les has just shown me my first ever koala in the wild, Lady Vanessa, and she was absolutely beautiful. We got to see her little hair, we got to see her stretch out, and something like that for the first time in my entire life. Hopefully you can see through the camera how much of an impact that has made to me, and I hope you guys will also be able to see that impact through the screen, if not, to be able to come and see it yourselves. So we know through what we've seen already that development in the Appin region has been a big effect, not only in terms of habitat destruction, but also bringing in cars and bringing in pets. Les, what are your thoughts on this, and what do you think the possible solution is?
See, we're losing koalas at an alarming rate now through development, so habitat destruction. So I don't think there's not much we can do about it, except get the younger generation involved, because they are the next generation. You know, we are so lucky that we have this in our backyard and we get to see all these beautiful creatures, but the next generation, they might not be so lucky.
Exactly.
So teach your kids, get the next generation involved, go out, get them out bushwalking, get them out to be active, and teach them about our wildlife, because we are losing habitat at an alarming rate. You know, Smiths Creek might be saved today, but tomorrow, who knows?
So what is the solution? Before we even get into that, I think it's important to understand and accept that the housing development in the Campbelltown and Appin regions has happened and is occurring. We can't stop those things. In a growing area such as ours, and especially in such a booming economy, we do need houses in these areas. However, it's looking at the moves forward that we make. And so that's looking at things like, how can we manage effectively these housing developments while reducing any further habitat destruction? So that includes things like koala crossings, educational pet curfews, keeping your dogs and cats indoors at night time and making sure that they're in the vicinity of our areas. And those are things that we are doing now. And when talking about conservation and sustainability, it's really important to not just look at the doom and gloom, but to look at the things that we are doing well. The Campbelltown region, the council, so the government, as well as the population within the broader southwest Sydney, has really been empowered in terms of koala advocacy and fighting for the koala population in this area. I think I need to echo on what Les has said as well, that education is the key, not just for young individuals, bringing up the next generation to look after the bush in the background behind me and look after all the flora and fauna that is found in the bush behind me, but also for the broader education of all adults and peoples of all ages, different areas of the world, to advocate for not only koala species, but nature as a whole. And that can be as simple as things as watching the biology blog, to look at and be educated about the world around us and not in a negative view. Because as you can see, places like here at Smiths Creek are still alive and still well and thriving, but for how long? And that's where we need to take action in our future. And we have been doing that as a current generation. It's imperative that we continue to do these things to engage our communities in conservation efforts. And together, we can ensure that koalas continue to thrive in their natural environments.